Hello! As always, I'm doing readings, info in the description to set up a reading with me. So, Moon is in Capricorn. It has been for all of today, and it will be for tomorrow as well. There's several stuff to cover. So, first, like we talked about for this weekend, we have a lot of water and a lot of earth energy at this time. And that's not good nor bad. Like, all energy is just energy. But like we talked about, it can have a bit of a challenge, I think, especially with today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, a little bit more so than today, where there can be a lot of heaviness. Earth and water energy, again, it's all just energy. Air and fire has its challenges as well. But the challenge of earth and water is to get too focused on what is not. It's known as negative energy. It's not the best term because it doesn't mean that it's necessarily negative. But then again, that does talk about the challenge, whereas air and fire can be over optimistic, earth and water can be overly pessimistic. But it's also good to look at it in the other sense of, again, of what is not, rather than what could be, what should be, which is air and fire. Earth and water is focused on what is and what isn't. So, okay, what do I need? What am I lacking? These things. Again, as we were talking about the last several videos, we have a lot of Scorpio energy. I think let's focus on that real quick. So I feel it's so sad what happened with the Travis Scott concert, and I feel like this is something that we all need to keep in mind. We have Mars in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus, and that, as much as we've talked about the good stuff with that, there is that challenge, especially with also the Sun and Mercury opposite Uranus and Taurus. There is that challenge of losing our cool, of just things happening very quickly. Like we talked about before, being in a situation that can be quite dangerous very soon. And unfortunately, I think that concert, as much as people were excited and it was a sense of, oh, this is going to be fun, it quickly spiraled out of control. And that is exactly what we've been talking about, is not putting yourself in a situation. And nobody knew that this was going to happen. But it's really important to keep these things in mind of just being careful, making sure that you're not in a situation where things can be out of control, and following your instincts about it. If there's a lot of people where you are, for example, that's just one example of how this could manifest, and people are really excited and kind of losing their common sense or losing their logical capabilities, it can be very dangerous. And that's just one thing. The best way to avoid that situation happening is just to avoid that situation in the first place. I had a conversation with my mom recently that really helped put that situation really in focus for me, which is we're coming out of that COVID situation. I mean, we still are in the midst of it and whatnot, but ultimately, like, I just went to my first concert. I hadn't even really thought about it up until yesterday. I went to my first concert since COVID, like first major concert on Saturday. And so it does seem like there are going to be more events and things, especially over the next month or so. It's just so important that as we are allowing ourselves to, as we're in these situations, these events that are allowed to blow off steam over the next several weeks, especially, just to be mindful of being careful in that situation. Plenty of people went to that concert and they were totally safe. They're totally fine. But again, this is tricky. We need to be mindful of situations where we're losing our control, and we have to be mindful of situations where other people could lose their control as well. And again, just looking at the situation, like with so many people, looking at the videos, with so many people, it's like, and with all that pent up energy from COVID, the lockdown and the restrictions, etc., for it to just be let out, we can see how that can be challenging. So just be mindful of that in general, of any situation where somebody's pent up energy is let out suddenly. That is what Mars opposite Uranus, but also Mercury and Sun opposite Uranus is all about during this time, and especially for the next 2 weeks, especially, I would say, with the next week and a half being the hot spot. As long as we're mindful of this, then that's great. So that's looking at it from like a macrocosmic view of being in a situation where that's happening. And again, at the concert that I was at, it all worked out. So it's just important to keep in mind. But the concert I went to was also much smaller, and there was a lot of room, and it's terrible what happened. Anyways, and I think on a microcosmic view for us as individuals with Mars opposite Uranus, this time is, again, this is good to be mindful of internally as well, making sure that we're expressing that energy, and to again, as I've been saying, to be mindful of not over expressing it, to not let it go completely wild. I think in particular, because we have Mercury and Mars conjunct, to be very careful about what you're saying and how you're saying it, because one way or another you can very deeply influence people at this time, whether you are being cruel, maybe you're in a funk. Again, we didn't really cover this too well. All this earth and water can be, again, very negative, very, very, well, I did say that, very pessimistic, can be very dense. It can, I feel terrible. We'll get to that in just a moment. Again, there's great things about these things too. We're going to get to that in just a moment as well. But in general, just be very mindful of your words, because you might really hurt somebody if you're in a funk and you say something just, I'm just going to say whatever because I don't feel good, that you can really hurt other people's feelings during this time. And that can have lasting effects for a long time, or if not life. And I think also that a great challenge here is for it to trigger people, and all of a sudden you're in a fight of some sort, verbally, emotionally, even physically. You need to be careful with what you're saying. We have a lot of power with what we say in any season, and with these energies in particular, it's a time period of what we're saying can really trigger people one way or another. And on the positive side, we can help ourselves and help other people grow really incredibly with what we're saying and what we're doing, and that's wonderful. Again, I can't say it enough, and I'll keep saying it, as much as it is present for the next couple of weeks. But I think especially for this next week and a half, if we're focusing our energies, if we're getting stuff done, if we know what our goals are specifically, and I think for today and tomorrow, that's one of the best things about this moon in Capricorn, along with the Venus in Capricorn, is as if we just know specifically what our goals are and we're moving forward with it, we're good. The last couple of days, at the concert, I was traveling, I was in a bit of I wasn't able to really sit down and write, and I had other readings to do, so I had to take care of other stuff, and I was kind of itchy. I was like, I really I want to finish this book. I'm like a day or two away from finishing this 50,000 word book that I started writing with September and October, and I wanted to get it out. I wanted to help people. There's so much good stuff in there, spiritually, psychologically, philosophically, practically. So to not work on it, I was kind of yesterday, but I knew what my goal was, and when time came around, I wrote, and it's good, and we're good. I feel so much better. So again, just from personal experience, but knowing these energies, it's that simple. Just know what your goals are, schedule time to reach them. You're good. Work out too. Again, that's the key thing here. We have so much warrior energy. We need to just move our muscles. Need to go for a run. But especially for these energies, it's more about moving the muscles, lifting. But be careful. Be careful. Injuries are very possible during this time, okay? Yeah, I think, no, I covered that. That's good. One last thing again, coming full circle, with all of this, with this water and this earth in particular, I'm looking at that moon in Capricorn in particular. Moon in Cap, as like all energies, is not good nor bad. It has beautiful aspects to it. Like we talked about, it can be very disciplined, very focused, but it can be quite depressive. It can be quite negative. But again, I think really the best way to solve that is just like we were saying, just know what your goals are and keep reaching them. I think for today, we've had Moon conjunct Venus, so there's been a lot of... that's one last thing I wanted to focus on was, so regardless of gender, we all have masculine and feminine within us. We have yin and yang. And, for example, I have a lot of fire energy. I'm also a straight dude. So yang energy, masculine energy is kind of my go-to. But I have moon in Cancer in the house of Pisces, of rising around the cusp of Cancer. So I love expressing myself in very feminine ways as well, and talking about astrology and emotions and psychology, things that are generally more feminine. So I think that it's good for all of us to learn about our masculine and feminine sides. Astrology can help tremendously with this. And I think what's really interesting for today and tomorrow is we have a concentration. This is quite rare. Concentration of the masculine planets being in one energy, like literally the exact same energy of Sun and Mars, Saturn as well, but it's in a different energy. But Sun and Mars both being in Scorpio, and then we have the feminine planets of Moon and Venus being in Capricorn. So I think that in a lot of ways, it doesn't necessarily have to follow along gender lines. I think gender lines will be kind of a general pattern here, but male individuals and or people who have a lot of, regardless of gender, a lot of masculine energies are going to embody the Scorpio a lot more. They're going to be a lot more willful, a lot more emotional, a lot more caught up in their action, doing things, focused, and females are those with a lot of female energy. And again, for all of us, it's good to look at both sides of this within ourselves, but females are those with a lot of feminine energy are going to be a lot more grounded. The Capricorn, they're going to be a lot more focused on how do we work together. And this is going to be present for the next couple of weeks with Venus in Capricorn, but since Moon is Capricorn as well, for today and for tomorrow as well, there's going to be that focus of, okay, what are our goals and how do we work together? Capricorn is one of the cardinal energies, so it's all about teamwork and being much more pragmatic, much more focused on common sense, etc. So I think that's really good to keep in mind, and that can be kind of helpful as if you're a male and you're feeling kind of like super emotional. Do the things that we were talking about before. Meditation is always good, but also maybe kind of draw like focus on your feminine energy companions in life or work or wherever, to be able to focus on what's the goal? What are we going towards here? And vice versa. If you're a female or you have a lot of feminine energy, or you're just wanting to focus on your feminine side within yourself, then it's really good to look at your more masculine companions and to learn from them of, okay, like how, yes, I'm focused on what the goals, but what am I feeling? And what is my instincts telling me? And we always can learn from each other as human beings, regardless of energy or gender or whatever. But this is a really interesting opportunity for us for the next day or so. So if those with a lot of masculine energy can learn how to be a little bit more focused and grounded and practical, and those with feminine energy can learn a little bit more about instinct and goal setting and what the actions are that they really feel connected to, then great. Beautiful. And again, we all can balance both these things. I think that's everything for today. Infinite love to you, my friends. Namaste. Peace.